Draykonyan Myths Retold, a recount of The Guardians by Gryner Mynclanr, chapters 1 through 4. Chapter 1. 7,001 years ago. There was nothing but cosmos. He formed everything. Then there was all but life. So he formed the first egg. It contained 2 dragons, brothers, twins. The first and the second, Draykonyan and Rydr. They together formed Draykonia. When they finished, they formed the second egg. But Rydr betrayed Draykonyan. He formed the third egg. 1 year later, Draykonyan and Rydr were ecstatic. Today was the day. The egg they had formed using their guardian powers was finally hatching. Little did they know that this was the last day of their bond. The guardians that hatched from the second egg were Sunil and Gydel. The original guardians were surprised to find 2 dragons hatch. Then Rydr left. Draykonyan couldn't find him while searching the entirety of Draykonia. Little did he know, Rydr formed his own continent, Drifnin. It translates to Morning Mountains. That was where he had gone to, and hid the third egg, which would hatch the next day. Many years later, Draykonyan never found Rydr. Rydr found Draykonyan and made the first mistake. He brought Myrillian and Aropia with him, the twins of the third egg. Back before they formed the second egg, they had made the agreement. In it, they swore to never form anything unless every guardian that has reached the age of at least 12 has voted for it. Rydr never told Draykonyan of the third egg. Draykonyan was furious, but remained calm. He wanted to find a way for Rydr to pay for his offense before expressing his concern, and so he waited. At this time, Aropia, Gydel, Myrillian, and Sunil had all reached the age of 12 and were taught how and when they would be able to form. Gydel brought his wisdom and told the others about his ideas. They voted, and the gifting pillar was formed. The first 2 gifting ceremonies were Gydel and then Aropia. Gydel's gift was gravity, allowing him to control his gravitational pull to any wall he encounters, if he so chooses, but only from solid ground, for he has to have something to switch from. Aropia's gift was air, allowing her to change the direction of the wind, or the amount of clouds in the sky. Her choice to put the kingdom of the sky was over the ocean between Draykonia and Drifnin, her first time. Rydr and Draykonyan were gifted night and day respectfully, one to rule the night and one to rule the day. This gave each of them a purpose. But what each one was they knew not, because there was no way to tell. Not yet, anyway. Sunyal's was the sun. She made it move across the sky and around an endless ocean, back to the continents. Marillion's gift was the moons, having the ability to move them with the sun, at different points of time and in different directions. Drakenhoff found his time some days later. Chapter 2. Times Together. Drakenhoff had finally found Nitrin's weakness, Marillion. He had been walking through the forest when he heard Nitrin and Marillion walking together through it as well. He hid and made his plan in his head. When they had left the spot that he was hiding in, Drakenhoff walked to a clearing and flew back to his cave and found Sunyal there. Ah, Sunyal. The dragon of his dreams, in his cave, rummaging through his stuff. He didn't mind. She was too perfect to care. Sunyal broke the silence. Oh, you're back? I thought that you were off doing whatever you like doing. This is a nice collection of shells, by the way. At this, Drakenhoff was taken back out of his trance. Oh, that? I just collect shiny things. I really don't know why. Well, I think it's lovely. Sunyal then flew away, and Drakenhoff almost followed her. But then he remembered why he had come. He had no time, but he had to at least try. While Drakenhoff was working, Nitrin was having the time of his life with Marillion, walking through the forest, looking at pretty birds, laughing at a few monkeys, fighting over yellow fruit, and enjoying each other's company. One particular time while they were sitting in the grass, Marillion asked Nitrin, "Why'd you name our home Morning Mountains? It sounds dreary and cold when it's really wonderful." Nitrin pondered for a moment, then answered, "I was lonely on Drifnin for the longest time, not just when I was waiting for you and your sister to hatch, but I was there when I wanted an escape, from my brother mostly, but also because of the different responsibilities I had at that time. Farming, growing, waiting for the growing to happen. But it was all worth it, now that I know you're safe, my love. But when I had formed your egg, I was severely exhausted and couldn't even stand for the longest time. It was probably an hour later when I had the strength to eat the deer I brought with me. But again, it was all worth it." Marillion had paused for a moment, then said, "I know I've asked earlier, but do you have any idea what I would look like before I had hatched? Or was all to luck and chance?" "I had no idea, but if you are asking about that scar next to your eye, that was on me. I had let you play with your sister at a waterfall for a little while as I went to gather some berries. When I got back, your sister told me that you had practiced flying next to the waterfall, and your wing had hit the waterfall, pulling you downward and downstream. I had dove in there after you and followed a trail of blood, fearing the worst. When I found you, you had actually traveled downstream for around a mile, and I found you crying against a rock, covering your eye. I asked you to come, and you were ashamed of yourself. All that I had to say to get you to come was that I wasn't mad at you, and then I healed your eye, and that was left in its place." At that exact moment, they heard a deafening crash through the trees, and Drakenhoff came barreling into the clearing, with Aropia, Geidel, and Sunyal following close behind. Nitrin asked Drakenhoff what was going on, and all he said was something about the number 15. Then, in his deep, wise voice, Geidel asked the same question, but Drakenhoff actually answered this time. "Around 15 years ago, Nitrin broke the agreement. It states that none of the Guardians are allowed to form anything without first going to the Guardian Council. He had formed an egg without first coming to me. This makes Aropia and Myrillian unlawfuls. And as punishment towards this, I deem that the words of banishment be said. Anyone else agree? At this, everyone was appalled. Banishment? Is it really worth it over something so small? But Drakenhoff does bring a valid argument. Everyone voted. The count was 4-2. Nitrin and Myrillian were both against this, but no one knew Drakenhoff's real plan. Looking at the votes, Draykonyan was pleased, but Nitrin was dismayed. Him banished? It can't be true. It can't. He did nothing wrong. Because of him, the night comes and goes. Without Myrillian, he would lose everything. And then Draykonyan started the words of banishment. Today, tomorrow, and forever, we hereby banish from this world Myrillian. She instantly was taken by some invisible force up into the sky. All of the dragons were both angry and ashamed. Angry at Draykonyan for deceiving them, but ashamed they had voted for this to happen. Several hours passed, yet no one had spoken a word, or even moved, when one by one, Sunio, Aropia, and then Gydo left, all with wet eyes. Night came and went. Still neither Draykonyan nor Nitrin stirred. Finally, after an entire day had passed, Nitrin asked, "Is this what you wanted? To hurt me? To destroy my life? Was it really because of that egg? Or was it for something else? And that was how you found to get at me? Why wasn't it me you banished? Not some innocent dragon. Why her?" He was furious all of a sudden, as he ought to be, but was barely holding on to his self-control. Seeing this, Draykonyan saw the error of his ways. He was ashamed of himself. He had been controlled by anger for all of these years, but all he could say at that moment was, "Oops." Chapter 3, The War. What happened next felt like time itself was slowed down. Nitrin lunged for the throat. Draykonyan barely was able to avoid it, and he had to do something he swore to himself he would never do. Fight Nitrin and win. No one quite knows what happened that day, but they guessed that there was a lot of clawing and grabbing, and when it was over, Draykonyan had his claw at Nitrin's throat. But instead of finishing the battle, Draykonyan loosened his grip, only enough to pin Nitrin down. Draykonyan had won, but couldn't kill his brother. The one he had lived with since day one. The dragon he would wrestle with when they had been little. The one who caught him when he had fallen off a cliff and was hanging onto a breaking branch when neither of them could fly. But instead, he said, "Brother, I cannot kill you, but I will do the next best thing. Today, tomorrow, and forever." A pause, where Draykonyan swallowed his pride and exchanged it with grief. "I hereby banish you to wherever you went, as well as anyone who helps you willingly and swears loyalty to you. And I also banish you to the night, whereas I hereby banish myself to the day and to Draykonia, never to leave." When he finished, not only was Nitrin taken away, but Sunio had returned to find a sleeping, injured Draykonyan. She instantly called for Aropia to help her, and together they carried Draykonyan to his cave. In the morning, exactly when the sun could be seen rising over the horizon, Draykonyan woke up and started crying. Chapter 4. Times Apart. Sunyul had been in that forest fearing the worst, and thought it had happened until she saw his chest rising slowly and falling to a steady rhythm. Once in his cave, she didn't want to leave. She had to be sure he was okay. So all night she stayed up and tended to his wounds. The missing claws, the missing teeth, the missing eye, the broken horn. Some injuries were minor, like the gash in his side, some missing scales, and a peculiar-looking indent on his paw. Upon inspection, Sunyul thought it looked like Cloudersall, but why that was there she had no idea. Why did Draykonyan write "sorry for all" on his paw? She had no time to guess because he had instantly woke up, and he was crying. All Sunyul did give Draykonyan a hug, and he hugged her back, but he was still crying. After a little while, Draykonyan finally told Sunyul everything, from the agreement to the forming of the second egg, from Nitryn's disappearance to his return, and from then to now, all his thoughts, feelings, and actions. Sunyul understood it all, but she still felt a pang for Marillion. What happened to Marillion? Sunyul asked. Where has she gone? Can she come back? Draykonyan instantly started crying again, but managed to say between sobs, "To answer your questions in turn, she has been banished from the planet, so she's probably on the moon, or one of them, and unfortunately cannot return. At least not entirely. There is a way. We'll have to wait for a few thousand years to see her, but there is a way. Plus, I believe Nitryn would rather kill me than amend her banishment. And unless all guardians are alive and present, I am unable to say the words of retribution. And that includes Nitryn, so we cannot unbanish her. But he, not being able to be here due to his banishment, can't be at the meeting, and that makes any vote void, no matter what it's for. So, as this is the case, the agreement is void, and any dragon can now form what they want, when they want, but hopefully it is to use for the group. Sunyul was taken aback, and realized the severity of the situation. Without any way to control what goes on, anything could be done, so she made a counter-argument. Why can't we just have the guardians who aren't banished vote? At this, Draykonyan sighed, then said, because I banished myself to this continent and the day and cannot form it with these conditions, meaning I can't form this agreement. That was when Sunyul started to cry. Oh, Draykonyan, you must feel so terrible. I wish I could help, but emotions aren't something anyone can fix instantly. I know that, and it's just, I don't know if I could live with the fact that I had banished Marillion, being as innocent as a child, or that I made my brother leave the continent we made together to wherever he ended up, alone, and I have you. I could erase Nitryn from my memory, but he would kill me the first time he sees me, and I would never know why. I have no idea what to do. Sunyul and Draykonyan stood in silence. Then the sun hit the horizon, and Draykonyan knew he would have to fall asleep again. So he told Sunyul that, being his last words of the day, she could decide what his punishment was. But before she could object, he fell asleep. Sunyul then went to her brother's castle, which was in the kingdom of the sky, for some counseling. Little did she know what had just happened. Hey guys, I'm Gryner Mynclanr. I am so excited that you guys have watched this all the way through. Please consider subscribing and liking the video if you like it and if you want to see more. I am just here giving you a good read, and this is a book that I wrote myself. It has so much into it. Please have a nice day. My next video will be chapters 5 through 10. See you next time. Goodbye.